Quebec has long been a home to a growing number of filmmakers whose distinct voices are being heard around the world. Denis Arcand, whose film The Barbarian Invasions, English title, won an Oscar in 2004.
C'est pas à moi que ça serait arrivé, ces choses-là.
And Denis Villeneuve, whose film Incendie was nominated for an Oscar last year. Now add to that list Philippe Falardeau, whose film Monsieur Lazhar is in the running for an Oscar next month for Best Foreign Language Film. It also put Philippe on Variety's list of the 10 directors to watch in 2012. The film asks a weighty question. What happens when a teacher at a small school in Montreal kills herself in her classroom? Who cleans up the emotional mess?
J'ai enseigné pendant 19 ans dans une école primaire à Alger.
Enter Monsieur Lazhar, a substitute teacher, an Algerian refugee looking to quiet his own demons. And in the process, help the children deal with their own. Philippe studied political science in Ottawa, and when he set out to become a filmmaker, it was the directors whose work on a social canvas, filmmakers like Ken Loach and Mike Lee, that actually inspired him. And his second feature, Congo-Rama, was a delicate comedy about people caught up in questions about identity.
Et que depuis ton retour du Canada, t'es bourré de mensonges.
À chacun ses mensonges.
Qu'est-ce que tu essaies de me dire?
Hervé m'a menti pendant 40 ans. Et toi?
Quoi, moi?
And for Philippe, Monsieur Lazhar was an opportunity to make a statement on not only the nature of grief, but also the immigrant experience and how much we can gain from each other.
Expliquez-nous, on n'est plus dans les années 90, c'est revenu à la normale en Algérie.
Rien n'est jamais tout à fait normal en Algérie.
Oh, please welcome Philippe Falardeau. Nice to see you, sir.
I like the picture you found of me.
You like that, eh?
6 years younger and less hair. I have to get a haircut. Sorry.
No, this is shaggy. I like this. This is nice. Congratulations on the film and all the awards and all. I mean, how do you feel about that kind of recognition?
It is overwhelming, and it's been like that since August. And I phoned my producer lately, and I said, when is this going to stop? And he says, why are you worried about that? So no, I'm very happy, and I'm happy for the film. We make films. We want the films to be seen. So when we do get artistic recognition, it's one thing, but when it reaches the audience, it's what we aim for.
This one is it's a beautiful film, obviously, and it's getting the recognition it deserves. But it's a play, and if you see it as a play,
yeah.
Did you say I can adapt that? Is that how it went?
It didn't work quite that way. It was a one-man play. It was one man on stage, and this same character, immigrant character, and we had to imagine all the other characters. So I guess all the other spectators were doing the same thing that I was. So midway through the play, I began seeing a film there, and because I was touched by the main character. My producer was with me that night. It was a coincidence, he was there, and I went to him after and said, let's do this. And he said, okay, let's do what?
Because he didn't see it.
He saw the play, but he saw a one-man play, so he couldn't figure out how we could make a movie out of this. But I guess while I was watching the play, I began back then structuring the whole thing to be a movie.
What I liked about it was, there's lots of things I liked about it. One of the keys was you were telling the immigrant story, and Canadians have this idea of what it means to be an immigrant to Canada, but we talk about it kind of like 40 years ago. It's a different reality now.
It is.
And you really painted that picture. Why was that an important story for you to tell?
You know, I studied political science, and then I ventured into filmmaking by accident. I did a show 20 years ago on CBC, French CBC, called The Race Around the World. Yeah. And I had to do 20 short films in 20 different countries. I was alone working with an VHS camera. I was the immigrant. I was the one not fitting in, trying to figure out how society worked. And one country every week. So when I came back, I was always obsessed with that, looking at ourselves through the point of view of an immigrant. And when you meet a person from another country, you have no idea what he went through. And that also, the untold story, just like the character in the film, he has a lot of dignity. He doesn't want to tell his story. He doesn't want to bother anyone with that. But I think he needs to talk about it.
Did you have a personal connection with Algeria?
Yes, I did. I did because 21 years ago, I met a girl from Algeria. And when I did this race around the world,
it's about a girl.
It's always about girl. It's always about girl. We make movies. No. It's and during this race, I wanted to go. I went to Syria, Egypt, Libya, and I wanted to go to Algeria. And 1 week before, a bomb exploded at the airport, and I was never able to make it. And the civil war began there. And when I saw the play, like 17 years later, it reminded me of this lost rendezvous. And
you're supposed to meet this girl, things happen, you can't meet her.
No, exactly.
Oh, that's going to weigh on you.
Well, I thought about going back there and do a documentary about me looking for that girl, because I've never heard of her again. I don't know if my girlfriend would approve of that project, though, but...
Last couple of films. On Monsieur Lazhar, there's a young girl in this who plays Alice who is, it's almost uncomfortable how good she is in the film and how much older she seems to be in this film. How many people did you have to go through to find this one?
Well, you can go about it like putting an ad on the newspaper and seeing 1,000 people that, you know, do not belong there. You go through, I went through specialized agencies that specialize with kids, and she had only done audition for TV ads. But when I saw her, I liked the mix between her baby face, and she had the eyes of an adult. When she was looking at me, I was looking at an equal, and that made me uncomfortable.
She was 10 years old.
She was 10 years old, and I wanted that, you know, that glare. I wanted that look for my character, because she's a little precocious in the film.
You know, there's this. We talk so much about the success of Quebec filmmakers. Jacob Tierney, who makes films, is a Quebecer, made a controversial comment saying basically the Francophone business focuses just on basically their story.
I think he's right.
And he's right. You're the only one who really came out and supported him.
Yeah, and I'm the only one who, you know, I'm not the only one, but I do portray other people in my films. And my second film was about a Belgian guy, and it was, you know, there was Congolese people in the film. This one is an Algerian. But I think he's right. But I think it's true to many societies that we concentrate on, we look at ourselves first. And it's not a sin to say a cat is a cat. And I think if I had said that publicly as a French Canadian, nobody would have noticed. But because he's an Anglophone in Montreal, it made, you know, such a story.
A lot of the great young filmmakers, we're talking about you, Jean-Marc Vallée, Denis Villeneuve, so many other ones who are making films that are working. I'm curious about the impact of the big culture debate of the last 20 years. What has the impact of that debate had on the art scene there?
When you look back at what the authors, the poets, or the playwright did in the 1960s, they had to be 10 years, 15 years in front of their time. And they were the avant-garde of what was happening politically. So in the 1960s and 70s, we did films that related to our identity crisis. Now we're past that. And I get a feeling that sometimes in English Canada, they're still looking to, you know, differentiate themselves from what the Americans are doing. We don't have that problem because of their language barrier and because we have a closed market.
No matter how successful you are here, for some reason in the rest of English Canada, there's always this other thing going, what about America? There's a certain kind of validation that comes from being accepted elsewhere. For a Quebec filmmaker, is there an equivalent? Is there validation?
I think it would be a mistake for me to think that my place is elsewhere than in Montreal. I've been making films in Europe. Kongorama takes place in Europe. I have projects in Latin America. That won't change. I know where my place is. But if I'm offered to do a James Bond, I might say yes.
Do you have that in your head, though? Like that's something you need to do? You want to make that kind of big film?
No, I think I have. It's every project, and if a project necessitates big money and big stars, maybe we'll try to go with that. But I have to tell stories about things I know, and I know things back in Quebec. So I think it's important to stay close to what I know.
You've got to see it. The film Monsieur Lazhar is what it's called. You're going to be hearing lots and lots more about it. It hits the theaters in Toronto and Vancouver on January 27th. You must go see it. Philippe Falardeau. We'll be right back.